Inside jokes play a vital part in internet culture. The term internet meme was coined in 1993 by a man called Mike Godwin, referencing the way jokes spread through early online communities, such as message boards, forums, and emails. As social media platforms began to rise, so did the meme. Social media platforms such as YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and Tumblr accommodate memes in a way that accelerated the way that they spread, allowing these jokes to reach wider groups of people. Inside jokes on the internet allow people to feel more included in something that's bigger than them, and are fun to participate in. A more modern version of the meme could be categorized into the short-form video, popularized first by Vine and then eventually TikTok. Each popular social media platform that exists today each have their own specific types of memes and jokes to fit the style of the platform. Facebook has their outdated minions and cats for the middle-aged women who inhabit the site. Twitter has their text posts and quote tweets. Instagram is a bit of a tricky one to figure out due to its major identity crisis. It just picks and steals ideas and concepts from every other platform, so there's a bit of everything on there. Today, however, we will be looking at the spread of two similar inside jokes on the internet on two separate platforms, and how they differ. Goncharov is a 1973 mafia film directed by Martin Scorsese. It's set in Naples, Italy after the fall of the Soviet Union and stars Robert De Niro as the titular Goncharov, a Russian hitman and a former nightclub manager. The story goes that the film had such a chaotic and troubled production that it never got released, which is why it's so obscure and often referred to as lost media. Except, this isn't entirely true. Scorsese only directed one movie in 1973, and that was Mean Streets, which is very much set in New York City and not post-Soviet Europe. Goncharov doesn't exist, at least not in the traditional sense. It's actually a well-agreed upon, elaborate internet inside joke that began on Tumblr. In late 2019, a user on Tumblr posted about a pair of knockoff boots, saying, quote, "I got these knockoff boots online and instead of the brand name on the tag, they have the name of an apparently non-existent Martin Scorsese movie. What the fuck?" Another user replied to the post saying, quote, "This idiot hasn't seen Goncharov." And thus, Tumblr ran with it, and the gaslighting began. The user who posted the original post actually deactivated their account, so it's unknown when the post was actually created. We just know it was sometime before November 2019. After this, the post gained a lot of traction, and users quickly began creating a both fictional and metafictional narrative for Goncharov. While this is an internet-based idea that is interchangeable and can freely be added to, the community on Tumblr did follow a baseline of lore that had been established, and they tried their best not to create contradictions. Tumblr users fed into Goncharov in many different types of posts. There were in-depth meta-commentaries written, fan art, posters, and if you look through these posts, you will start to feel so gaslit into believing that Goncharov was a real film. Like, yeah, this is a totally real and accurate way in which Tumblr interacts with media and fandom. Everyone committed to the bit. The main basic Goncharov cast is as follows, and excuse me for pronunciation. Robert De Niro as Goncharov. Sybil Shepherd as Katia Goncharova, a woman who fell in with the mafia and trained to be a spy. Harvey Keitel is Andre Dodano, aka the banker. Al Pacino is Mario Ambrosini, a mafia boss with a gambling addiction, who provided Goncharov protection when he was forced to leave Russia. Gene Hackman plays Valery Mikhailov, Katia's brother who also fell in with the mafia. John Cazale as Joseph Morelli, aka Ice Pick Joe, an American man who suffered a psychotic break after the death of his brother. He is somewhat a comedic character until the end of the film. So that's just the main cast of Goncharov. There are many other characters and actors who are involved in the film, but these are kind of like the main ones. They're the most agreed upon, and they're the ones that people talk about the most. Furthermore, there isn't a complete straight-through plot that fully exists. However, there are many scenes, moments, and themes that are widely agreed upon. So, let's have a little dive into some popular Goncharov-related Tumblr posts. Mimika Arts posted this fan art of Goncharov with the caption, "Time will catch up with you. Goncharov 1973, directed by Martin Scorsese." And this just looks so real. If you didn't know that Goncharov was an inside joke, you'd just see this and go, "Oh, that looks cool." And you wouldn't think anything of it because it just looks so normal in the ecosystem of Tumblr. User Catalina's posted, thinking about the Goncharov 1973 boat scene. Enough posts about shipping, can we talk about ships, as in boats? The allegory of the ship of state. Like, it's a trope bordering on overuse, even in ancient literature, but that's part of the point, the infinite repetition of the cycle of violence mirrored in the repetitive borrowing and overuse of motifs from other genres/works of media, and B, because it's sexy. Another user, TFW No Tennis, posted, the way that If You Could Save Yourself, You'd Save Us All by Ween would have been the perfect end credit song. Thematically and musically for Goncharov 1973, but it just came out 30 years too late. Another user, aptly titled Goncharov with an X, posted an essay about Goncharov. The clock symbolism in Goncharov 1973 is absolutely worth analysing and talking about, but I think the mirror symbolism is underappreciated. I genuinely think it's just as interesting and important, if not better than, the clock symbolism. So, little side note, clocks are a hugely discussed motif that appear throughout the film, contributing to the main theme of time and loss of time. And I think it's one of the most popular headcanons, I guess, if you could call it a headcanon, for Goncharov. Another user called Valeriana Diosa said, okay, but everyone talks about the boat scene or the fruit stand scene, etc, etc. But why is no one talking about the cathedral scene? It's literally a cinematic masterpiece. The symbolism, Goncharov seeing deliverance in a desperate attempt to redeem himself, the utter devastation that the viewer feels when you realise he's too far gone to save himself, God. Not to mention the soundtrack, that Latin chorus gave me chills. So as you can see just from these few Tumblr posts, the community really treated Goncharov as if it was real, and how they would treat any other media like it. Goncharov, however, is not just a film. There are many adaptations that exist, including, but not limited to, Goncharov, a 1966 black and white 6-episode Polish miniseries, a 1980s musical, a licensed PC game, a Muppets version starring Gonzo as Goncharov, and an anime spin-off. The Goncharov bit went so far, in fact, that Martin Scorsese himself is aware of it. In 2022, Francesca Scorsese, Martin Scorsese's daughter, posted a TikTok asking him if he had seen the news about Goncharov, and he replied simply, yes, I made that film years ago. Goncharov acts as a piece of meta-commentary on fandom and the way we consume media, and how we discuss it and enjoy it online. The posts are fully aware that Goncharov as a film never existed, yet play into the narrative that this is a fully fleshed out and very real film. The whole inside joke is very fun, and serves to show that the internet can bring together a large community of people that can create something with agreed upon ideas and concepts. It worked so well because it was a creative outlet for people to share fun and interesting ideas together. There is a Google Doc created by a group of very committed Goncharov fans and contributors, which serves as a collection of the established lore of Goncharov. It includes the characters, plot, and production history. It's very extensive and interesting, and I've gotten a lot of my information from it. I'll put the link to the doc in the description so you can find it. I'd really recommend giving it a look if you're interested. So now that we've looked at Tumblr's made-up movie trend, let's take a look at another. Zepotha is a teen slasher film from 1987. The most widely accepted and known main characters are Elaine, Maxine, Danny, Cole, Rita, and Vincent. As you can probably already tell by the way I'm describing it, Zepotha never went as far and as in-depth as Goncharov did. It's hard to talk about any concrete agreed upon Zepotha lore because not much of it was really created, and here's why. On August 25th, 2023, TikTok user Emmy Jeffrey posted this video. And similarly to the way that Goncharov began, TikTokers quickly began posting videos about Zepotha. Again, a lot of users got really creative with the concept, and with TikTok being based on short-form video content, many of the contributions were in the form of fan edits, using scenes from other TV shows and movies that gave the same vibe as Zepotha. There were also people creating fake DVD and VHS cases, reviews, fanfictions, and more. The Zepotha trend quickly gained traction on the platform, reaching some of the biggest companies online, including Netflix, who actually made a video comparing it to Stranger Things. However, one of the things I feel like this trend is so infamous and memorable for is the comments. Now, while they aren't the videos that the platform is so known for, TikTok comments are kind of iconic in their own right. They've gone through many different phases, reflecting how the app's kind of evolved. I remember in 2020 when people were doing those fairy comments that were really passive aggressive, and they'd just appear under every single video that you'd see. And that was just TikTok for a while. That's how the app works. As the app evolves, the comments and the vibes, I guess, evolve with it. And just like many other TikTok trends, Zepotha came with its own breed of comments, if you will. If you were on TikTok in August 2020, you'll probably remember going into any comment section and seeing a ton of comments like, "You look like the main character from Zepotha," or "You've never seen Zepotha." And looking back, a lot of people say that this was just really annoying. It wasn't creative, it was just really repetitive and got old real fast. And people started to turn on Zepotha. Going back to when it was popular, tons of users were already saying that the trend had gotten old barely even 2 days after it began, and that it had oversaturated and taken over the platform. But most importantly, the song had taken over the platform. The caption of the original Zepotha video said, quote, "Putting this song forward as the movie's main theme. I think it has Zepotha vibes, TBH." However, people eventually noticed that the song playing under the video is actually one of Emily Jeffries, the original poster's songs, called "Do You Remember Me?" Users also noticed that Jeffrey had an album coming out on August 25th, entitled Soundtrack for an 80s Horror Movie. So yeah, it became pretty clear that Zepotha was simply a marketing scheme, and it worked. The original post today sits at over 1.5 million likes, and the song on Spotify has over 4 million streams. Goncharov now stands as one of Tumblr's greats. But why? Why did the fake movie trend work on Tumblr, but not particularly on TikTok? I think that the main reason that this trend only worked on Tumblr was because of intention. I'd say that intention is perceived as fairly important when it comes to creating a piece of work, specifically a meme. And when your intention is not received well by the audience, your work will suffer the consequences. Now, this isn't always the case, especially if you believe in death of the author and separating the art from the artist. However, many people cannot or choose not to separate these two things from one another. And I do think that both opinions of this are valid, depending on the case and situation. With the case of Goncharov, it wasn't planned. The original poster never even intended for their post to become a trend. It simply developed naturally through the Tumblr ecosystem and turned into a trend that valued and encouraged creativity and contribution. However, I'd argue the problem with Zepotha was that the creator had a specific intention when posting their original video, and it was in the sake of marketing their own piece of work. Zepotha was not natural. It's kind of like the industry plant of trends. Furthermore, unlike the well-established Goncharov law, fans of Zepotha could never agree on a set plot, and ended up contradicting other people's ideas and opinions a lot. Many people also began to see similarities and compare the two trends, like I am in this video, and stating that the former was the original and better than the latter. What do you think? Was Goncharov the best movie never made, or did you enjoy the 80s nostalgia of Zepotha? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, thanks for listening to me ramble.